This is Lake Valley, and up until a few weeks ago, it had been abandoned for 2,706 days. In the previous episode, we spent time improving the roadway network, adding access to the downtown and ensuring that we were following proper roadway hierarchy. And though we reached a respectable traffic flow by the end of the previous episode, things have broken down a bit just by letting things run a little bit longer. Part of the problem is our lack of transits, particularly to this part of town. There's a lot of destinations and we're going to need transit to get people to this area. And the other half of the problem is this area. There's simply too much zoned industrial concentrated in this area for it to function appropriately. Today, we're going to introduce the Industries DLC into the build to solve traffic problems. And I know that sounds weird, but it's going to work. We're going to add a variety of extractors throughout the community and process all of those raw materials in our little industrial park. And we will be creating all 4 industries, so this will be a little bit of a speed run. So while we take a sledgehammer to the area, the overall composition of uses in the area will not change by the time that we're done, and it will function a ton better. And if you like the Industries DLC, hit the like button. And if you don't, hit the like button for that too, and let me know in the comments what your favorite DLC is. And if you don't want to say, drop an emoji to celebrate Cities Skylines 2 being announced. I'd really appreciate the engagement as it helps improve the reach of the video. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. Welcome back to our congested little industrial park. This is going to be a problem until we get rid of all of this general industrial. And I was afraid that that could be the problem when I attempted to salvage this area, but I wanted to see if it was possible. And truthfully, it's okay. What you see is that things are slowing down. There's backup from time to time. Sometimes it gets really bad, backs out onto the highway. Sometimes it just, looks like this. And if we pop in and take a look at our traffic flow, it's oscillating. Right now, it's kind of at the low end of where I've seen it. 70 to 71 is the low end. The high end is 80, 81. But it generally rests around 75. It all depends on what's happening in this area with some of our congestion and in our downtown area where you see these reds. Those are all trip generating uses. So I thought about building our transit network first, but I was concerned that we're going to create a bunch of demand once we fix this area and spread things out and need to redo our transit. So I figure we'll focus on the industrial DLC additions first, and then we will move into our transit in the next one. So naturally, we need to take a look at our natural resources to see where we could actually build these new industries. And what I see is that we've got some really well-situated deposits of natural resources. So we've got trains right here that could bring everything into this area. And we built one in the previous episodes as well, right over here. So that covers our agriculture, that covers our forestry, and our ore. We could have everything right out here if we wanted. We could also have our ore industry over here. That's more likely what we're going to do is kind of separate these. And then we'll have all of our factories in this area. All of this general industry is going to go out the door. The one industry that's missing, you might have noticed, is oil. And that's for good reason. Our oil deposits are underneath our suburban neighborhood and where our future airport's going to be. Definitely disappointing, but we can have an import-based oil industry. Perhaps it makes a bit more sense why I had so much oil over here in the past. Anyway, let's get started. And the first thing that we need to do is unlock all of our tiles. So that's something I didn't have access to when we first played the game back in 2015. We have it now. We're going to take advantage. All right, let's draw in our industry areas. So obviously we're going to have an import-based oil industry over here, so we don't need to worry about that one quite as much, but I am going to paint our other industries. We're going to have our farming industry in this area. There's our farming. I definitely know we want to have our ore industry over here. And then lastly is forestry. And I want to really look at the terrain for this one. And truthfully, this might be one of the better locations for it. We can kind of just commingle these. And there is our forestry industry. And for all of these, we are going to drag over a little chunk of it onto this little peninsula here. And that's where we'll do all of our processing. I think we're going to start out with our farming. So let's start out with our dirt roads. We're going to start out very rural if we can. And I think we're going to just build upon this. I've got anarchy on, so I'm just going to extend this. We'll fix that in just a moment. And though we could just have this gigantic cul-de-sac I do think that it's going to be important that we do something here as well with the highway. So I'm going to create a really basic ramp, and I'm going to turn off anarchy for this. All right, this isn't the fanciest interchange in the world, but it's going to do the trick. And I really think that you should focus on right sizing your interchanges. So to begin, we're going to place our main building here, and we're going to kind of speed around the extractors here. We don't need to worry about it. I have everything unlocked, which was a bit of an accident, but I think it's fine. We're not trying to unlock these anyway. We just want to use the functionality. I'm going to temporarily place our main building, and we will just add in a road that this can go along. And I want to refocus this on that road. And then for this, I'm just going to, because we have all of this available to us already, we're going to have some large crop fields. Now, if I were to place this right here, the main problem is that we're loading onto our arterial. The purpose of this road is mobility to get down to our train. It's completely flat here. We'll add a road off from here to dissipate the traffic. So we're collecting that traffic onto this other road. Now we can have these right here. And I'm going to add some fruit fields too. For this, I'm going to place one right here. And then I'm going to hop into move it, hitting M, hold down Alt, and it stays clipped to the grid. So I'm going to rotate this around, and I'm still on the grid. I can move out 2. I have room for a road there. And now I know exactly where this road in the center needs to go as well. And you can tell because I have anarchy off, and it still worked fine. We disrespected the terrain here a bit. I'm going to continue that. Might as well. I've already started. Why start respecting it now? We'll just make the terrain and the topography respect us. And then the final thing that we need to get this moving would be some place to store the grain. So we have these large barns. The thing that I always think about with these is the freight truck count. So you might need more freight trucks to get your goods to wherever they're going, or you might want fewer because you don't want to crush your entire community with freight traffic. I think that when we're taking a look at this, this is 600,000 capacity with 25 trucks. This is 20 trucks with 500,000 capacity. Editor Phil here, and I feel like there are a couple more things I need to point out. First of all, there is a difference in the operational cost. It's really negligible, like $12, not something to worry about. And then there's the upfront cost of the building, which there are differences, but we're so far along in this city build, it doesn't really matter. We've got a ton of money. And because of that, it really does come down to the freight truck count, so I'm probably going to focus on that the rest of the build. I'm going to go for more trucks because we're going to be a long ways away. And then the other thing I want to have is some meat processing. So this will turn our crops into animal products. You know, the big difference with all of these is simply the production rate. And what we're looking at is the slaughterhouse actually has a lower production rate than our large animal pasture by about 1,000 actually, yet the number of freight trucks is exactly the same. So by the logic that we used in the last one, we actually might want to go with some of our large animal pastures. Just for aesthetic purposes though, I'm going to have a little of both, and this will work out just fine for us. So right here, what we have is a good mixture for our farm, basically every extraction building that we could need, and then we can take our other buildings and put those in the factory district. We do need a warehouse here to store our animal products. And for this one, I'm gonna go with 2 small warehouses. So that's 500,000 total storage. Now, there is a lot of traffic here. We're importing all of our crops for the time being while we're waiting to connect this up with power and water. That's a temporary thing. Once we start producing our own, because I get water pipes and power over this area, we're gonna see that crush of traffic disappear. This is the perfect time to address this area over here. We kind of did some things. Not proud of them, but we did them anyway. What we're going to do is just add in a stop sign right here. Probably, well, we'll just leave it. It'll be uncontrolled. It'll be an implied stop. That's what we'll call it. And that should do the trick for us there. We also need some power lines going back there. All right, we're all connected up now, so we should be fine. We just need to set some of our warehouses up, animal products in both of those. And then I want to take this dirt road and we're going to upgrade that to a 2-way highway. And that's going to be helpful in maybe keeping some of this traffic off from the freeway and heading directly down here towards our processing. Next, I want to focus on our ore industry. So this one, we're going to need to turn our contours on and think about how we're going to cross the water. So we'll again start out with our dirt road, but I'm going to spin this around here and just follow the coast a bit. And then we're going to cross at a nice short span. And this looks like it's as short as any place. It's pretty consistent everywhere. So I'm not going to get overly concerned. And there we go. That's how we get across. Oh, interesting. Our river actually stopped flowing. Did I put this in the middle of a spawn point? I didn't. I don't know why that happened. Not going to worry about it. I've seen some weird things with water on this map. It's an old map. It happens. So we're going to forgive it a bit there. And I want to work with the terrain. So we're going to send a road along this terrain line. And we're going to need another way to leave here too, which is kind of why I'm following this. I'm not 100% sure where this goes. Maybe we find a way to meet up over here and have another interchange, but we can't cul-de-sac this. It's way too far back and we're going to cause lots of problems. And we're going to have another industry over here. So the last thing we want to do is focus 100% of our traffic flow onto this little area right here through what is already or should be a congested area. And we're likely going to add some more trash processing back here as well. So let's build this area out. So we're going to build a little local access road and then place our main industry building back here. And then we'll place a variety of extractors. I'm not going to spend a ton of time detailing this, but I will make it look all right. And then for all of these, because we didn't exactly respect our terrain, we're going to need to come through, well, I guess with the exception of this one, and going to hit the sides a bit. I'm just flattening out around it, and that'll make it look considerably better. Same thing here. And then we'll need some storage for this. And then we'll get our utilities over here as well. And I had to move over the sand storage to get power to jump, and so that's why I'm smoothing this out a bit. And now we're going to add some gravel to improve the aesthetic of this area. So this industry is now functioning as well. We've got to move on to our forestry industry right across the street. And I'm actually going to modify this road that we just put in because right now it's basically a road that's serving that one industry and that one industry only. So there we go. Now this road will function well for both. And this is going to be really a simple industry as well. There's basically no terrain to worry about here. So we will add in our main building, be just off from here. And I was mistaken. There is terrain right along the river, but it's easy enough to fix. We'll just Control H and then feather it out. There we go. And now that we have this, I'm going to basically send some roads off into the woods, and those roads will have extractor buildings along them. And now that we have our extractors, I'm going to add some storage for the logs. We might actually have to go with a couple of these smaller facilities because I've kind of made it challenging to do anything beyond that. But that's completely fine. Just a small industry area doesn't need to be elaborate. Let's get our utilities in place. I've switched these all to conifers, but I'm going to Alt-B into Bob, and I want to convert these over to the live oaks. So we'll need to go in and actually modify the sub buildings. There we go. And the main reason I wanted to do that is we are going to I want to densen up the woods around here and make it feel like this is flowing into this. This actually does two things for us. Number one, it looks nicer. The other thing that it does is it maxes out your raw material in this area. It's the only vanilla industry that you can actually influence the amount of raw materials. So I would highly encourage you to do that anytime you put together a forestry industry. So that looks very good in my estimation. And now there are two things that I want to focus on before we switch gears and move over to our oil industry and get these industries over to our old industrial park. And that is, first of all, we need to get this some sort of interchange over here. We need to space this appropriately. So we're going to space this about a mile, which is right about here. We'll grab a dirt road for now, send this right here, look at our contours and connect this up with our industry area. And now we're just going to connect this up with our dirt road. And ideally, we'd have a nice clean connection through here. And then we'll upgrade this as far back as we can get it so that we're improving our speeds along here. We are going to bring over some more of our trash buildings over here. And I'm actually thinking of upgrading the rest of this road to be a highway as well. Now what we're basically doing is giving this area a better access to the highway, which gives me a little bit of extra confidence in moving our advanced incinerators from our old general industrial district to this one. All right, so this little concentration of garbage doesn't seem to be a problem. We've got 7 trucks out there, 12 out here, and plenty of access. So I think that we're going to be fine. And that leads us naturally into our next industry, which is going to require us to completely demolish this. So I'm really excited about this because I am tired of this area. Goodbye, zoned district. It's been nice to know you. Wow, and apparently I missed 4 incinerators over here. So I think that we're going to take a look and see how much processing we have. And if we have a bunch extra, it looks like we do, I think that I'm just going to roll the dice and get rid of these, and we'll just see how it goes. And if we're okay, then we'll just roll with it. Yeah, we're totally fine. That was a lot of capacity right there. Oh, totally unnecessary. And a whole bunch of vehicles loading. Now, I have a feeling that that's going to impact us over here. The number of vehicles that we're drawing out of here is going to be higher now, but we're still in a completely fine spot. So we are going to not worry about that. In this area, now that we've got this completely cleared, we do need to get a temporary power line over to this. And now we'll just keep the goods flowing through here. But I want to keep the bones of this and think about how we lay out our industries. So we are going to create our brand new industry for our oil. Let's add that right here. They'll get a backdoor access to the train and a fairly good access to the highway. So this will be our oil industry. And then we're going to steal little tentacles of our other industries. So let's start with our farming. And I'm going to pull that as far away from the oil industry as we can. Think about it. This is food. Would you really want your food production to occur near oil? Probably not. Next, we'll get our forestry. And I think that we can put our forestry industry right in between the two of these. And then last but not least, we have our ore industry. All right, so now that our districts are outlined, I want to think about our factories first. So normally we wouldn't have the privilege of being able to lay out our factories first. We'd have to think about our industries first and level them up. But because we have these unlocked, we'll just go for it. And I want to place them in places that are efficient. So I'm going to go through the list and we're going to place most of these. I don't know that we're going to place the petroleum refinery, for instance. It's massive, but we'll see. We'll see if we can fit it in here. So for our furniture factory, we know that this is our little forestry industry. Place that right through here. Bakery is going to need to be back here. Our steel plant needs to be near our ores. And I need the contours on so I don't screw this up. And this should probably be along the water. I'm going to place this appropriately, and then we'll fix the terrain. This is the height of realism right here. I'm going to Control H this road to line up with this so that we could have a road coming off that meets up. That is all set up there as well. I'm going to worry about all the storage buildings after the fact. We're not going to worry about that right now. We've got plenty of time. Then our household plastics is 100% in oil industry, so we'll place that over here. This roadway network in the oil industry is really tight. I'm thinking we're gonna get rid of half of these roads through here, and we'll see if we need to add any through. But these buildings are gonna be so big that I think it's gonna serve us a lot better to thin these out a bit, which again will help our traffic flow, interestingly enough. The funny thing about here is many of these are just kind of functioning as collectors. So we've got our main arterials here, and then this is kind of a collector, but even this is functioning kind of as a minor collector. So there is a roadway hierarchy. It's not perfect through here. I think it's going to be okay. This is our toy factory. This needs paper products, wood, and oil. So keeping that close to this area is probably for the best. This is definitely an arterial, so we're going to turn this building away from there. Then our printing press, again, paper and oil, or plastics again, rather. And this one, I'm going to place this right here, but I'm going to add a road and spin this around. My concern is that this road is one of the main arteries in, and with the location that I'm putting this in, it's going to be a problem. Actually, it's going to be a problem regardless, because this is going to be a major road as well. We'll just have to see how that performs. I'm not 100% sure that that is the best location for it, but not everything's always in its best location. This place is still going to have its issues. Lemonade Factory is a mixture of glass and food products. I think we're going to keep this near our food production area. So we're going to need to, again, thin out the roads. And then our electronics factory should be over here kind of by itself. Oh, that is so close. So this is temporary. We're going to place that there temporarily. You see that we're basically taking the whole roadway network and starting over, but that's okay. This needs it. And what we're going to do here is just draw in a new road. It's going to be kind of a circuitous and long route, but I'd rather do that than have this taking its access from our collector through here. And now I should be able to turn this factory right around. Oh boy, this was not the height of realism. We've just completely carved into the hillside, but we're going to need to take some liberties here. This is where the network multi-tool comes in handy with our set slope mode. First of all, I want to make this road look a little bit nicer. We'll use our range at line mode and just curve here, straightens it up a little bit. And then we will set slope basically from here. We're going to need to pull this out a ways. So we have a 20% grade right there. Pull it out a little ways and we get to 1.8. Totally acceptable. Same thing over here, looking good. And then we'll just feather that out to make that look a little more planned. Next up, we've got our clothing factory, which is primarily animal products with some plastic. We might actually put this closer to our oil industry. I've got to be really careful here though, because we've got to remember that the oil industry is going to require a whole bunch of storage buildings over here. All of that said, we'll put this right along the highway here. Next up is our petroleum refinery. And I want to see how many we have left. We've got soft paper, which is really a mix of everything. We don't need every factory. These are all producing unique factory goods. So maybe here's where we start to cool it down. We'll add our sneaker factory over here as well. That seems to be a good fit. Editor fill, and I'm going to cut in here to prevent myself from taking you through this process. I'm going to basically go through and systematically rule out almost every single factory due to space constraints, except for this one. So maybe this isn't necessarily the height of realism, but it's going to be the height of making me happy. So that's the way that we're going to handle that. There we go. So now we got all of these unique factories, but what we're missing is our oil industry. And it's kind of a pretty key industry for most of these factories that we've added in here. So for our oil industry, we can skip all of our extraction and go right to storage. In fact, we need to have our storage. I think we're going to want to go with whatever the smallest storage is that we can get, and we'll have a few of them. I'm going to go for these small crude oil storage tanks. I think that we could sneak these in, and we'll go for our small storage tanks because we're not traveling very far. We're traveling within the district, and we just don't have very much space because our factories are right here. Now that we have this, these will eventually start to fill up. So that'll probably connect up most of what's happening over here, and we can move on to some of our processing. So there are two things that we need in our oil industry. First one is going to be petroleum. Second one is plastic production. I don't think we need a ton of either of these, but we need some so that we can process these at our factories. Oh, we don't have a main building yet. So we've got to add the main building. We'll place that right here next to our petroleum refinery. And then looking at this, so this is 4,000 units per week production for this petrochemical plant. The other option is 8,000 the truck count is lower, and I think we need the trucks here. It's funny. So this one actually fits better. So the one that has fewer trucks, we might just need to go with it. And I'm temporarily moving this fire station. We'll probably move it around a few more times as well. So I'm going to add a couple of these right next to our shoe factory. And this will process our plastic, which we're going to need for our shoes, for instance. And then the other one that we're going to need over here is going to be our waste oil refinery plant or our sludge processing plant. Now, this is the exact same spread. So 44,000 versus 8. Size is probably our number one concern here, and they're the same. So I am going to go with our smaller ones this time around, but I added twice as many so that the processing rate for our plastics and for our petroleum is about the same. Editor Phil again, and I've had my work cut out for me today, but either way, I wanted to point out a flaw in the logic here. So I should have looked at each of the factories and seen what I actually need from a processed material standpoint. I didn't do that. I just assumed that they were the same, and they're not. Many more buildings need plastic than petroleum. So now we need storage for both of these, and then we're going to need storage for all of the rest of these industries as well. So basically anything that we have in this district that's going to be consumed within this district for the oil industry, we'll go with some of our smaller storage and not worry about it too much. So I'm going to go with a small storage here. And this land here is really not well utilized right now. We're going to send a new road back so we can have some of our storage back here. And this is a huge cul-de-sac, but I think that we need it here. This isn't a great location for what we're about to do. I mean, I think obviously I'd like to have this. Actually, maybe we'll put our main building back here. And then I can put some of my storage along this road, which again is not great because this is a very important road, but I think we can get away with one. So this one I'm going to set to be petroleum. This one will be plastics. And then I'm going to have unique factory goods over in this storage. And that's at least centrally located for these ones over here. And then I will adjust the terrain just a bit. Looking good. Over here, we are going to need a whole bunch of storage. So the very first thing I'm going to place over here is a lumber yard. So I'm going to add 2 of those right here. And there's almost a couplet through here. I'm thinking of severing that here so we can focus our uses here. And the other benefit of that is we can establish appropriate hierarchy through here. I'm going to grab this road. We're going to send this back through here without connecting through. And then we'll turn the printing press building onto this local road. And now our hierarchy makes sense. This right here is now the collector for this area. And we don't have any uses focusing on there. So now we've got our storage for our lumber. We need some processing, and we can have that along here as well. So there are a couple of things that we need. We need to be able to produce paper, and we need planed timber. So I'm going to grab some of our engineered wood plants. This is the same spread here where we start to see it's about twice as much with 8 trucks versus twice as much with 10 trucks. And we're actually going to mix it up here and have a mixture of the two because of the space that we have available to us. And then we need paper as well. Bio pellet plant is one option. That's huge. The other is this pulp mill, which again is massive. So we don't really have an option here. We're gonna go for a pulp mill because we can fit one of these in and get twice as much production. We still need some of our storage, so we'll add that as well. And we'll go for paper, timber, and then unique factory goods. I'm probably going to move this one. And I was thinking of having a unique factory goods building over here, a medium-sized one, but I'm just going to go with a smaller one. We'll spread things out a little bit. And I'm okay going with this smaller warehouse because we're so close to the cargo train terminal. Remember, that's where we're really going. And then we've got our food processing over here. Wow. Apparently some intense parking demand. So we are going to need we have our flour, our bakery right here with no flour. So we're going to need to process some of our crops into flour. So we have our flour mill. We'll place that right next to this. And I'm pretty sure because we already have our meat production over on the other side, that's kind of all that we need over here. So we are going to have some storage buildings, obviously, for our grain. We're going to need a warehouse for our animal products. But beyond that, we're kind of where we need to be. So flour right here, animal products right next to it, and then we'll have unique factory goods right in the center. We have a ton of space over here though, which makes me think that maybe we could get another factory in place. So the most compatible factory would be something that is similar. Yeah, we don't really have any. We have soft paper, we have a car factory, and a modular home factory. This is maybe the most compatible. I think I might do it though. I think we're going to be okay with this. It's in a factory. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I'm going to convince myself that it's fine. We are encroaching a bit on the side. We're going to need to make the terrain respect us. And we can do that. That's no problem. And then we've got some empty area back here. That's okay. You don't need to fill in every square inch of everything. All right, that's looking good. It's funny, our industrial demand is through the roof. And I'm going to be real with you and say that I'm totally okay with this. We can meet our industrial and office demand downtown with some new offices and not concentrate our general industry in one area. We are making goods, but we're going to fulfill the rest of that employment need with offices. And then finally, we've got to worry about our ore industry. So for our ore industry, we've got two things that we need to process for. First one's glass, and the second one are metals. So we are going to first add in some storage. I think we might have some of this inside looking storage. This is a 500,000, 20 freight trucks, completely fine. And I think it's going to fit the aesthetic here very nicely. This is just really an aesthetic choice. And we'll add a couple of these over here, disrespecting the topography and forcing it to respect us along the way, which seems to be a theme today. And I'm here for it. I hope that you are. And from there, it's just our processing. We don't have a lot of space for this, but I think that we have enough. So we've got our fiberglass plant that is our large plant, and our rotary kiln, which is our for metal. I'm nervous about how big these are. We'll place our kiln right there, and for our fiberglass plant, we'll go on the other side, and then we'll have a little bit of space for some storage, but not much. So this is about as space efficient as we could be for all of these uses. So glass here, and over here we are going to have our metals. And then we need to look and make sure that we've got water everywhere. Oh boy, we've got some things happening here. I think this is the perfect opportunity to clean this up. And I think we've covered all of our bases. Maybe a couple of areas like this that used to have water pipes that no longer do. Easy fixes. You know, I had been considering adding some general industry back here, but I'm inclined to not do so. So we'll just close some of these roads and not worry too much about attempting to have everything completely filled in. And then we could be a little bit more financially prudent with some of our spending. We've got 2 significant fire stations over here. Total overkill. So I'm going to get rid of one of them. We also have a cryopreservatory over here. Probably not necessary either, but this will be really helpful. They don't think it's helpful. All right, well, we'll do it anyway because I think it's important. So now I want to add in some pedestrian facilities through here. You know, truthfully, there aren't really many pedestrian connections to make. Most of these are already made by the roads that we have coming through here. So this seems like most of these areas are functioning appropriately, but there are other places like this where I'm just not seeing this actually getting used the way that it should be. So I want to make sure that we are actually seeing the processing that we should. I'm going to let this go for a little while. We're going to speed this up, and I just want to make sure that all of these areas are working. We could even add some policies to each of these. Maybe we should actually, before we do this. I basically like all of these. We're increasing the storage capacity of our extractors and processing buildings with improved logistics. Safety costs 1 cell per affected worker, but it increases the overall worker health, which means that our death rate in our city is lower. So why wouldn't we do that? And then we're looking at our advanced automation, increases the output, but increases the cost. I don't really care. We've tried to be as efficient as we can. So we'll just do that for all of these. And then you can see something interesting as we zoom out here. Our industries are leveling up at different rates. Our ore industry, if we look here, we're not leveling up because of workers here, but we're producing a lot. Forestry industry is just kind of going gangbusters. We've got the potential to have enough workers for this. I don't think that we're going to reach it. And then for farming, it's kind of the same deal. The workers are going to be what limits us. For the oil industry, that should be our smallest. It's not. I think that might actually be our ore industry. We just don't have a lot happening there, but we are going to be in a spot where at least all of these level up somewhat. Forestry the most, and we have a lot of extractors for that. So I'm going to let this go, and we're going to see if this fills in, and I'm going to get rid of this because it's driving me crazy. And we'll be back in just a moment. All right, now I've let this go for a couple of minutes, and I'm seeing a couple of things pop up as routine problems. And really, we have a lack of metals and a lack of paper production. There's metals right here, paper, metals here and here, paper. So we need to produce more of that to meet an equilibrium here. So the reason why we are struggling with paper production is we just have this one pulp mill. So what we're gonna do is just add in one more, just relocate these, and then we'll just clone this bad boy right here. The other thing that we could do is add in a storage facility. We'll add another one right here though. We'll store paper, and now our production will go through the roof, and that should fill us up. Now, the other one that we've got to worry about again is metals, and we got our rotary kiln, which is massive, and we've got terrain, which is challenging. So we're going to need to use some of our smaller processing buildings over here. So we've got this grinding mill. We'll have to extend our industry area out here. And then I'll just have a couple of local roads running down here. And then I'm going to add at least 2 of these grinding mills through here. 3 if I can. I'd love to get as many as I can. And then we need some storage. And I want at least 2 storage buildings. So this might mean that I go back on this. All right, this should help us out quite a bit. We could keep going if we have to. Part of me wants to just have a really big storage facility. I can move that there. I'm wondering, could I fit in a larger metal storage? That is not pretty. But sometimes you need to not worry about aesthetics and you need to worry about function. This might be one of those cases. I'm going to move that over just a minute. And then we'll decorate around here to make this look a little bit better. And hopefully these factories will just keep producing to meet the need here because we have so much. And then we have our ore storage here, so they should be able to easily get to all of these different factories that we have here, so we should be fine. There, that's good enough. There are some things here that I'm not super thrilled about, like this little forested area right here. I don't know that we can do anything with this because of the way this is laid out. Probably okay. This might be something where we do something decorative through here. And there we go. Just a decorative little water feature. Nothing super impressive. Probably not entirely necessary considering we're on the side of 2 rivers, so it wouldn't be a stormwater pond, but we'll go for it to use up some space. We are missing plastics now. That is our other miss. I'm just going to grab these petrochemical plants and we'll add a couple of these through here. It's not going to be the greatest layout, but again, a lot of what we're doing right now is trying to get the functionality right, and I think we're doing okay with that. So obviously we could keep playing whack-a-mole and seeing what we're running out of. It seems like it's really just plastics that is our problem right now. Yeah, it's plastics basically everywhere, and we've added a ton of production. So eventually that will work its way out. At this point, what I want to do is take a look at a couple of things. We can see that we're making a ton in money. Our population is continuing to grow, which is a good thing. We haven't even zoned any residential, but that means that we're likely seeing some of these areas. Yes, they're finally filling in, which is a good thing. And I want to take a look at our traffic. 80%. We have fixed some traffic problems with the industry's DLC. And you can see that just through here, there's backing up from time to time. Some of this, I bet you that we could resolve. So that extra node there wasn't helping us. So Getting rid of that is helpful. So there are little things like that we could do, but traffic through here is moving absolutely exceptionally well, which puts us in a pretty good place. 81 puts us in a pretty good place to start our transit episodes. So I think that this is the perfect opportunity to kind of take inventory of what we've done and have a brief city tour. I'm really loving the way that this turned out. I love what it's doing to our city budget. This area just looks a ton better, and look at the way it's functioning. So that's the joy of the industry DLC, that you can have these massive sprawling industrial areas and not completely kill the traffic flow in your city. Now, obviously right here, there is a lot of demand for industry or offices, and we could come through and work on these and continue to expand them, but that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is kind of go through these areas and think about whether what we've done here makes the most sense or not. We've got a lot of traffic in the downtown area, and some of this is too much commercial. We could swap some of that out with office, and we could just add in office in some of the places where we have space. But I think that's where we should leave it today. And I know that this was a bit of a speed run through building these industries, but I think for the amount of time that we spent, they function and look very good, and I really hope that you like them too. If you've enjoyed this one, just consider hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It is a huge privilege to be able to bring these videos to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take care. Bye-bye.